An Su-35 pilot never sees it coming on radar. His scope is clean, no threats. Then his aircraft is destroyed. The F-22 that killed him fired from beyond visual range. The engagement closed before the Su-35's erst could pick up engine heat or a motor bloom. That's not luck, that's architecture. The F-22 Raptor was designed around one core principle: find the enemy before he finds you, and kill him before he can respond. That sounds simple. Making it real required solving three hard problems simultaneously: reducing your own radar cross-section to near zero, building a sensor suite that can detect threats passively, and fusing all incoming data fast enough to act on it before the tactical window closes. Every major air force in the world is now trying to replicate what the F-22 did. None have fully succeeded. Understanding why starts with understanding how the Raptor actually sees. What the system is. The F-22's detection capability is not a single sensor. It's a layered architecture: radar, electronic warfare receivers, a missile launch detection system, and a data fusion computer working together. The pilot doesn't manage each input separately. The aircraft synthesizes them into a unified tactical picture. That integration is the capability. Remove any one layer, and the system degrades. But together, they give the Raptor a persistent, multi-dimensional awareness that older fighters cannot match. The APG-77 AESA Radar. Start with the primary sensor. The F-22 carries the APG-77 active electronically scanned array radar. Unlike a mechanical radar that physically rotates a dish, an AESA uses hundreds of individual transmit-receive modules. Each module can point independently. The beam can shift position in microseconds, not milliseconds, microseconds, without any moving parts. That speed matters for two reasons. First, it allows the radar to scan multiple sectors nearly simultaneously, building a fuller picture faster than any mechanically steered system. Second, and this is the part most descriptions skip, it allows the radar to transmit in very low probability of intercept modes. The F-22 can shape its radar emissions, vary frequency, modulate pulse timing, spread energy across a wide bandwidth. The result is a radar signal that is extremely difficult for a threat receiver to detect, identify, or locate. The Raptor can be actively searching for you while appearing electronically quiet. Passive detection. Here's the harder concept. The F-22 doesn't need to emit to detect. The aircraft carries the ALR-94 electronic warfare system, an array of over 30 antennas distributed across the airframe. This system listens. It detects radar emissions, data link signals, and other electronic activity from threats at ranges that, according to open-source reporting, can exceed the F-22's own radar range under certain conditions. If an enemy aircraft is using its radar to search, which most pilots must do to fight, the AL-94 can detect that emission, classify the platform, and hand off a targeting solution. The enemy reveals himself. The F-22 stays silent. The AL-94 doesn't just detect. It provides enough angular precision that, in some engagement profiles, the F-22 can cue a missile on a passive track without ever activating its own radar. The target never gets a warning. The IR picture and its limits. This is where the F-22's architecture differs from what most people assume. The Raptor carries the ALR-94 missile launch detector, a distributed aperture system that provides 360-degree coverage against missile motor blooms and short-range infrared threats. It is effective, but it is not a long-range scanning ERST. That distinction matters. The F-35 carries a dedicated infrared search and track system, capable of passively detecting and tracking aircraft at significant range using heat signature alone. The Su-35 carries one too. The F-22 does not. In an engagement where an adversary goes to strict emissions control, radar off, radio silent, the Raptor's passive picture degrades. It can detect a missile launch. It cannot passively track a cold cruising threat from distance, the way an ERST-equipped aircraft can. This is a real gap. It was a deliberate trade-off. The F-22 was optimized for radar-centric, beyond visual range combat against adversaries who would be actively emitting. Against a disciplined, emission-silent opponent, the architecture is less complete than it appears. Here is what that means in practical terms. The F-22's detection advantage is largest when the enemy is broadcasting. The moment the enemy goes quiet, the Raptor has to choose between activating its own radar or accepting a degraded picture. Sensor fusion. Despite that gap, the fusion architecture remains the most sophisticated in any operational fighter today. The F-22's systems integration computer pulls inputs from the APG-77, the ALR-94, the ALR-56, and data arriving via Link 16 and the intra-flight data link. All of that feeds into a single track file per contact. One symbol on the display. One coherent picture. The pilot is not managing sensors, he's managing threats. Fourth-generation fighters present pilots with raw feeds. The pilot sees a radar return here, an RWR spike there, and must manually correlate them under pressure. At high speed, that cognitive burden degrades decisions. The F-22 removes it. Low observability as a detection multiplier. The F-22's radar cross-section, assessed at a fraction of a square meter, in certain aspects, means that by the time an enemy radar is close enough to detect the Raptor has already had the enemy in track for minutes. Stealth doesn't make the F-22 invisible. It compresses the enemy's detection timeline so severely that his reaction window shrinks to near zero. At long range, that asymmetry is decisive. At close range, it erodes, and Su-35's Erst can pick up engine heat, or a missile motor bloom inside visual range, regardless of radar cross-section. The F-22's geometry advantage depends on keeping the fight at distance. That's not incidental, it's doctrine. Taiwan Strait. A PLA Air Force package of J-16s is pushing west to east, escorting strike aircraft toward a defended position. They are running their own IA radars in search mode. The moment those radars activate, the F-22's ALR-94 begins building tracks. The J-16 pilots have no indication they're being observed. Their radar warning receivers show nothing because nothing is hitting them. The F-22 element, operating at distance, uses the passive track data to develop geometry. The lead pilot doesn't activate his APG-77 yet. He maneuvers using only the passive picture, supplemented by data, arriving via the intra-flight data link from a second Raptor holding further north. At firing range, beyond visual range, well outside any Earth's detection envelope, the lead pilot activates the APG-77 briefly. A short burst to confirm firing solution. The J-16 radar warning receivers spike. The pilots react, but reaction takes 2 to 4 seconds minimum. The AIM-120 is already off the rail. The geometry is already closed. The fight ends before it begins. That sequence only works because the F-22 kept the engagement long. Compress it to close range, and the picture changes. J-16 Erst starts contributing. The Raptor's cross-section advantage narrows, and the engagement becomes more symmetric. Long-range dominance. Close-range parity. The F-22 is designed to never let it get close. The F-22 has real constraints. The absence of a dedicated Erst is the most significant sensor gap relative to current adversaries. The Su-35, J-16, and J-20 all carry infrared search and track systems capable of passive, long-range detection. Against an adversary running full MCON, the F-22's passive picture is thinner than theirs. The intra-flight data link is not compatible with most Allied aircraft. In coalition operations, data sharing requires workarounds that reduce speed and fidelity. The Raptor was largely designed for US-only employment, and that isolation has operational costs. The APG-77, despite its low probability of intercept design, is not undetectable. Modern ALINT systems, including those fielded by Russia and China, are specifically designed to detect AESA emissions at long range. The probability remains low. It is not zero. And the fleet is small, around 180 operational aircraft. Spread across global commitments, density in any single theater is limited. A capability that cannot be present in sufficient numbers has a ceiling regardless of how good it is. The F-22's detection architecture redefined what air superiority means. Prior to the Raptor, dominance was primarily about kinetic performance, speed, maneuverability, missile capacity. The F-22 redefined it as an information problem. The aircraft that builds a complete picture first, while denying the enemy any picture at all, wins before the kinetic exchange begins. China's response has been systematic. The J-20 carries an Erst. It is designed for low observability. It integrates data from off-board sources. Whether it matches the F-22's fusion architecture is not publicly confirmed, but it is not coincidental that every capability gap in the Raptor, the Erst, the limited data link interoperability, the small fleet, appears to be a design priority in China's next-generation programs. The absence of an Erst in the F-22 is expected to be addressed in sixth-generation planning. The F-35, which does carry a full Erst, partially fills that gap in coalition operations, but it was designed as a multi-role strike aircraft, not an air superiority platform, and does not replicate the Raptor's detection architecture in full. The U.S. currently holds a lead in radar-centric, beyond visual range combat. That lead is real and operationally significant. It is also narrower than it was a decade ago, and narrowing further as adversaries field Erst-equipped fifth-generation aircraft in larger numbers. In God, the next-generation air dominance program will need to close the Erst gap, scale the fleet, and extend the fusion logic to a networked, distributed kill chain that no single aircraft can anchor alone. The F-22 pioneered the architecture. What comes next will have to operate in an environment where the adversary has spent 2 decades studying every layer of it. The F-22's one sensor gap, the ERST it never carried, tells you more about 6th-generation priorities than any official program brief. When your adversary builds their answer to you around the thing you didn't include, you know exactly what the next fight will be decided by.